Hello and welcome to the morning sports briefing here on the 30th of April. Welcome to New Zealand Sports Radio, where you get the best start to the day with all the important sports news. And today we have FIFA Medical Officer Wants No More Football, awards and more awards. Welsh players suspected of having COVID-19 and Warriors await crucial decision. And that is where we start today. We're going to go straight over to the league news with Stephen from the far north. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, thank you very much, Paul, and good morning, everybody. I feel special today, but league news at the top of the show. And we start pretty much with the Warriors, who are waiting on vital information about player remuneration before they can confirm their participation in a rebooted competition start. Behind the scenes, the club is preparing for departure this Sunday and given the limited flight options out of Auckland this weekend, and that's after the NRL confirmed that the comp would start in 4 weeks. But it's believed the NRL has yet to communicate with the Warriors or in fact any of the other 15 clubs on ideas in and around salary levels for players in a compressed competition. Now, on top of all of this, in less than 5 days, the squad is expected to hop on a plane and pretty much wave goodbye to their families for a stay across the Tasman that could extend to 5 or 6 months. It's a staggering commitment that the players have adhered to, but universally it's one that they have told management they are prepared to follow through with. However, it's impossible to take the final decision without knowing how much they will be paid. Just remembering the salaries were frozen when the season was suspended. Now, it's turning about to be a really huge week for the NRL. Just to recap, the 20-week season has been announced with the grand final to be played on the 25th of October. And meanwhile, 4 players have been caught breaching basically COVID-19 protocol. So basically what's pretty much going to happen is players to undergo biosecurity training. NRL clubs will undergo an education day to ensure they and their players are fully aware of biosecurity measures. If players fall foul of those rules, ARL chair Peter V'landys has vowed to come tough much harder. V'landys told the Sydney Morning Herald on the very first day they will be educated as to what is expected of them. That's so we can be fair to the players. There will be an education day about what is expected from them. Once they have had that education day, we will certainly be much harder in and around protocols. They have no excuse. They will be aware and they will be told in no uncertain terms. Just days before the NRL plans to resume training, though, Queensland Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk says the state's 3 clubs may have to wait until next week to learn if they have to relocate to New South Wales. Club are due back training on the 5th of May rather than the 4th of May, as was originally planned, according to the Australians' Brent Reid. So the league took a major step towards the May 28th by agreeing to that 20-round resumption. But obviously a few things just playing out in the background there, Paul, especially from the Queensland Premier. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Stephen. And we'll move on to our football news. The Michael Dahugi, who is the FIFA's chief doctor, has warned against restarting football. He thinks that it would be good to cancel this season and prepare for the start and have a good commencement to next season instead. He says there are risks, and it's not a risk that has small consequences. It can have consequences of life and death. That is why I'm so careful. I ask everyone to be very careful before deciding to play again. He does point out that he is the medical officer, and so hence he doesn't have to worry about sort of financials and all those other pieces that will obviously be being considered as well. But he does ask, how will you avoid direct contact? That's his question, because social distancing laws or social distancing rules are still in place in many of these countries, and will be still in place when this football kicks off. So he does have a very good point there. He would like to wait until there is a vaccination program, but I don't think, let's be honest, I don't think many leagues will be able to do that financially. Unfortunately, and other concerns I think will take place will take precedent over this. He does make another final point that, for instance, to avoid speaking, why do we have to see that in football and not in other sports? Good question. Why is football bringing in this rule when we haven't heard any other sports bringing in this rule? Moving to local news, James Batsman's ban from coaching has been heavily reduced. There was an incident in a Auckland club competition in August of 2019. The Western Springs assistant coach was banned for 6 months for violent conduct, assault of a match official. And I say and that was imposed last September. He's appealed the decision and has instead been charged with behaving in an irresponsible manner and using insulting and abusive language towards a match official, which has a 4-week ban instead. He's obviously very grateful about this and points out the mental and financial cost has been significant to himself, etc. Is not really saying anything sorry about the incident itself in his, or at least he hasn't been quoted as saying that. The opposition, the head coach of the side, did think that said that he had touched the shoulder of the official whilst directing him towards something that was happening on the pitch. He said he did not believe it amounted to violent conduct, whereas a second witness said there was a shove, not a shove to the ground, but clearly as day a shove. So I'll leave that up to you as to where you think whether that counts as being violent conduct or not. Clearly, New Zealand football has decided, or their disciplinary commission has decided that it didn't. And that's your football news for today. I'm going to hand you back to Stephen, who is resplendent in front of those jerseys to bring us the birthdays today.
Yeah, thanks again, Paul. If I do, just before I get into birthdays, just behind me, you've got the Northern Taniwha jersey, the Otago jersey, and of course the North Harbour jersey. And just a reminder to anybody out there who's tuning into the show or watching to the show, if you're involved with a club, doesn't have to be a rugby club, a football club, any club indeed, reach out to me, let me know, and I can pop your particular club jersey or shirt up, and maybe even we can give a little bit of a brief about that particular club. But our brief this morning is in and around birthdays, and we go from a football goalkeeper to top level rugby, from a middle distance athlete to high performance manager, and finally gold and silver medalist at the Commonwealth Games. Richard Peterson is a New Zealand weightlifter who competes in the 85 kg division. Peterson competed at the 2010 Commonwealth Games in Delhi, where he won the silver medal in the men's 85 kg weightlifting event. 4 years later, at the 2014 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, he won the gold medal in the same event. He was New Zealand's flag bearer in the 2014 Commonwealth Games closing ceremony. Richard John Edward Richie Peterson, born this day, the 30th of April 1983 in Auckland. Richard is 37 today. And moving on, Tony Rodgers is a retired New Zealand middle distance runner who represented his country in the men's 1500 metres at the 1984 Summer Olympics, finishing in 9th place. He also competed at the 1982 Commonwealth Games and later became the high performance manager for Athletics New Zealand. Tony Rodgers, born this day, the 30th of April 1957 in Huntly. Tony is 63 today. And finally, a rugby player we all know too well. Ali Williams is a New Zealand Rugby Union player who played at lock at provincial level. He played mainly with Auckland, though he spent 1 season with Tasman and was also loaned out to Nottingham in England's second level RFU Championship in 2010. At Super Rugby level, he played for both the Blues and the Crusaders. Williams played for New Zealand's national team between the All Blacks between 2002 and 2012. He was in the All Black squad for the 2003, 2007 and the 2011 Rugby World Cups. In 2005, New Zealand Rugby Almanac chose him as one of its 5 players of the year. Williams has spent what were to be in the final 2 seasons of his career in France with Toulon, playing there from 2013 to 2015. He came out of retirement to play in the 2016 and 2017 season for top French club Racing at 92. Alexander James Ali Williams, born this day, the 30th of April 1981 in Auckland. Ali is 39 today, but we won't talk about that last stint in France, especially his off-the-field issues. That's it in birthdays today. Hey, I'll see you all again tomorrow. I got to go.
Thank you very much, Stephen. And yes, off you go. Go to do some work, and we'll move on to rugby news now. And don't forget, you can join the #Rugby Chat Show on 8 p.m. every single Tuesday, where we discuss the hot topics in rugby in more detail. Quickly, this morning, Tim Horan has mentioned that he believes a Pacific Island team should be included in a Super Rugby revamp, suggesting that Australia, New Zealand, Pacific Islands, Japan should form their own domestic Super Rugby competition, and that Argentina and South Africa have their own one, and then perhaps you have a champion of champions between the two sides. This is a concept that we've discussed many times on #Rugby Chat as being the proper structure of a conference-based style system. It's how NFL or the NBA over or even Major League Baseball over in the USA works, and so it's no surprise that this idea has come up yet again. He also talks about potentially expanding into the USA at some point in the future as well, which clearly lessons around expansion haven't been learnt. Over in New Zealand, there is a Super Rugby review going on at the moment, being run by Don McKinnon, who is the head of the Blues rugby franchise. Other people involved in this are the heads of the other 4 Super Rugby franchises: Tonya Carwood from the Chiefs, Ian Potter from the Hurricanes, Grant Jarrett from the Crusaders, and Doug Harvey from the Highlanders, plus a private investor representative, Liz Dawson, and the New Zealand rugby chair, Brett Impey, and also Mark Robinson as well. Clearly, no players and no provincial representation within there. And when you get Don saying something like that, that the provinces shouldn't feel threatened by this, you've got to wonder what the kind of range this review is going to bring up. Clearly, they've already got a contract with Sky and with Sanzar as to how the structure should be. So it's amazing that we have so many different people suggesting change when there's already something in place. But we'll see what comes out of this one. But not only are they looking at Super Rugby, but they're also looking at how it fits in with the professional player pathways as well. Over in Wales, they are still preparing for as though they are going to be touring New Zealand in July, which is a bit of a surprise. Officially, it hasn't been called off so far, so I guess that's why they're doing it. What they've also mentioned is that 5 players have had COVID-19 symptoms. No one has got seriously ill. We're talking about temperatures and coughs, and they've all come out the other side. They haven't been named as to who they are, but luckily they are all better now. But it does show that even if you are fit, it's not a protection against catching this disease. Some of the feedback from the players is that if they had to play 8 test matches in like 10 weeks, they would relish the opportunity at the moment. We've heard previously that kind of toll on the body, players have been anti it from a player welfare point of view, but clearly the lack of games, I think, has definitely changed people's opinions from that point of view. And also, he says there is silver lining in that players had a proper break and have got over the various niggles, etc., which has been a good thing to come out of this. That's your rugby news, and I'm going to hand you over now to Ashwin, who's going to bring us up to date on the cricket.
Good morning, Paul, and good morning to everybody out there. And as mentioned earlier, more awards have been given out by NZC, New Zealand Cricket. Tom Latham has picked up the Redpath Cup for the best Black Caps batsman for the 2019-2020 season. Tom Latham breaks Williamson's and Taylor's stranglehold that they've had on the trophy for the last 7 years. Latham scored 608 runs in 9 tests this year, or last season, at an average of 40.53. And he was named in the ICC World Test Team for 2019 as well. In the bowling ranks, Tim Southey picked up the Windsor Cup for best Test bowler. First time Southey has won it since 2014, and it's ended a 5-year sort of strangled hold on the bowling trophy from Trent Boult and Neil Wagner. In the 8 tests that Southey played, he picked up 40 wickets at 21.47 apiece. Domestically, Devon Conway has picked up more awards, or another award. Conway picked up the second successive Men's Domestic Player of the Year. Plunkett Shield, he scored 701 runs at 87.55. Ford Trophy, he averaged 55 runs at a strike rate of 99. And in the Super Smash, he scored 543 runs at an average of 67, strike rate of 145. He's the first player to pick up the award in all formats of the game in a single season. And you can understand why so many people can't wait to see him in a black jersey. I'll have more awards news and Swinging from the Hip, which will be on tonight at 8 p.m. right here on New Zealand Sports Radio. In other news, the man at the centre of Shakib Al Hassan's ban for 2 years from cricket has himself now been banned. Deepak Agarwal is an Indian businessman, and he will not be allowed to be involved in any form of cricket, domestic or international, until 2022. Agarwal lives in the Indian capital of Delhi and has been in the anti-corruption unit list of corruptors, was charged as a participant under the corruption codes. Now, this highlights how the ECB has to be careful about any advice that they take, utilising Indian businessmen to prop up the 100 League. Now, that's all our cricket news today, but before I go, as I mentioned before, join Rohit, Taran and myself Swinging from the Hips at 8 p.m. tonight. We will talk about the awards, a few more awards that got handed out this week in history, and then COVID issues like legalised ball tampering. So join us in the chat room, give us your thoughts, and have a listen to what we have to say. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you very much, Ashwin. And in Olympic news, the IOC member John Coates has come out and said that we don't need a vaccine to go ahead with the Olympics next year. Now, that has been an opinion that's been going around the media circles quite a lot recently, so it'll be interesting to see where the official advice comes down on. But he says that the World Health Organization says they should continue to plan for the date and that it's not contingent on a vaccine. It'll be interesting to see how many athletes who have spent will now be 5 years training for this singular event will decide to maybe pull out if there isn't a vaccine. We'll have to wait and see. That obviously a lot of people's livelihoods on the line with that one. Over in surfing, and the World Surf League is looking at potentially having a one-day event at the end of the season to crown the men's and women's champions of the season. This is a little bit controversial because obviously it's going to obviously depend on waves, etc. And also people just can get lucky on one day and be then crowned the best person, even if they haven't won or most points or most events during the year. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works. This is also obviously with surfing will have its opening event at the Olympics next year, or sorry, will be at its first Olympics next year. And there's also going to be an Ultimate Surfer reality TV series on a major American network as well. So surfing at the world level, looking at increasing its profile and getting more people interested in the sport. Over in motorsport, and Audi has decided that it will withdraw from touring cars to put its effort into e-cars instead, in Formula E instead. This is obviously going to be a blow for touring cars, but obviously Formula E is probably looking at the future of cars, isn't it? Is the electric vehicle instead of petrol. So it's going to be interesting to see where or how that progresses, or whether other disciplines will start to change from being petrol driven to electric driven as well. That is your sports news, and bring you up through all the important sports news for today. Don't forget, at 2 p.m. today, I have the Long Talk, where we'll be talking with an esports reporter and talking about the state of esports in New Zealand. As Archery mentioned, at 8 p.m. tonight, we have Swinging from the Hip, our cricket show, and we have 4 other shows in development. So don't forget to like, subscribe, all of that kind of stuff on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, wherever you're watching, or obviously if you're listening to the podcast, then you can get that in all your top podcatchers as well. Join us again at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning for the morning sports briefing, and stay safe and have a good day, everybody.